Hello, gorgeous seekers, and welcome to our Mars-Pluto square discussion. I am filming this really at the height of this energetic transit. It's happening as I speak, and I'm definitely feeling it. These squares this week, we started off the week with Mars and Saturn square, and we're ending the week with Mars and Pluto square. And these are heavy hitting energies. These are energies that want us to really look deep at things we're afraid of, things we feel out of control about, really looking at our shadow side and the part of ourselves that does need love and attention and time and nurturing just as much as our fun, playful, bright side and our neutral side as well. So it is heavy hitting energy. I know I have been feeling it so deeply this week. Could I plan a better week to jump into a different lifestyle and shift and everything? Of course, this would be the week I would do it. But let's talk about this Mars-Pluto square because it is intense medicine. It is about the shadow side, and it is about finding healing in transformation, finding empowerment in transformation, and not being afraid of it. I love the fact that Mars is at 22 degrees of Aries and Pluto is at 22 degrees of Capricorn for this square. 22 to me, it's a master number. I'm not a numerologist, but master numbers always ask us to up level, right? And so this is a really, you can see how this square is asking us and inviting us into the next chapter, right? And it's wanting us to take a moment to look at some things, right? Like a lot of these squares right now, they're about breakthrough. Mars, the way he's squaring things, he wants us to break things open. He wants us to break past containers and past ways of seeing our value. And so these squares are really doing that work. And I would say with Pluto, it's kind of the master work of transformation, right? Because Pluto is all about power and transformation and so tied to the underworld and the river Styx. And actually, that's what I want to talk about today. I think this square in some ways is like taking a ferry ride on the river Styx. And we do this multiple times in our lives. It's not something we just do once. We do this probably hundreds of times. And sometimes the crossings are more intense and more lengthy, and sometimes the crossings are mini bursts, right? However you're experiencing your crossing right now. The message here, though, is to explore a sense of safety during a crossing. Explore a sense of safety in the mystic. Explore a sense of safety in the transformation, because one thing I'm noticing with these square energies and with all the squaring with what are considered malefic planets, Saturn, Mars, Capricorn, these are heavy hitting planets in many ways. The first thing that sometimes can rise to the surface is our fears. And what I call the haunted house, which is that part of ourselves that we're like kind of jumping or getting spooked by a lot in our lives, and even feeling unsafe in our exploration of what is next, feeling unnurtured, feeling unmothered in ourselves and in our cultures and in our process. And I think sometimes these squares initially come off with a lack of that mothering energy. All right, there's like, these energies do not have an innate nurturing factor to them. And so sometimes when we first engage with them, it can feel as though we are just having to go across the river Styx without our inner mothering instinct, inner parenting instinct lit up. And that is the thing I want to say. You're going to get the most out of this next few days as we ease out of this Mars-Pluto square. And as we prepare for Mercury retrograde in Scorpio as well. We'll get into that next week. To activate your inner mother energy that allows you to safely look around the river Styx, around the haunted house, around your fears, your worries, and reaffirm your safety in the exploration. This is really important in order to get the breakthroughs that you want to get from this energy. And so that is really the big theme. One thing that I think is really interesting, just in the context of this square, is that while it's happening, there's another 22-degree placement hanging out with us, and that is the north node of the moon in Gemini at 22 degrees. And I'm noticing these 22s jump out at me, and I think there's a reason that the north node, the moon, the mother energy, is lit up at 22 degrees as well, and a very different energy than either Aries or Capricorn. Clearly, the North Node is trining Mars and Aries, but it's quincunxing Pluto and Saturn, or Pluto and Capricorn. And I think this North Node in Gemini is reminding us to be playful, right? To be curious, playful, creative, and that kind of self-mothering, where when your self-mothering voice is quite loud and quite consistent, that self-mothering voice allows you to go explore, feel the heat of the fire, look around and explore different insects and plants and learn, knowing that you're safe to do so. And I think that North Node of the Moon is a nod to that. That while this square can make it feel as though you are facing straight into challenge or facing straight into something that you are really scared of or worried about or nervous about, or facing into how intense it is to transform and watch something leaving your life. You know, this is the heart of this whole process this year. And we're getting into the late degrees of this Pluto transit through Capricorn as well, and that's a long transit. We have more years ahead of that, but we're starting to understand what it is we are shedding in 2020 during this time, during this October. It's a really important time, and I think activating that North Node in Gemini energy at this time is actually very helpful. It's such a different flavor of energy. It's so playful, it's so light, it's so curious, and these things don't have to be partitioned off. You don't have to just be going through heavy transformation or just be light, curious, and playful. These things often come in waves and weave together, and sometimes you're in that Plutonian underworld really exploring some deep themes, and sometimes you may be able to tap into that Gemini energy, that self-mothering energy, and nurture yourself into a playful, creative space. And these two things are going to be working with you over the next few days, so take them with you. I have some affirmations to take with you for this Pluto-Mars square, because like I said, I personally know that I want to be doing this work. You better believe it. And, you know, feel free to join me on this. I want to create enough safe thoughts, enough safe energy, right, to be able to look at what is transforming and to be able to bear witness to it and feel it and allow it to move through, allow myself to go on that crossing. And so that does take some, I think, very purposeful sitting down and choosing those safe thoughts. And I think it's easy this year. It's very easy with this type of challenging astrology and this type of challenging collective energy sometimes to allow yourself to very purposefully create safe thoughts to hold you. And I think this is a really great time to do that. In fact, the rest of October, I would take some of these affirmations and practices with you. These are some of the affirmations. You can obviously come up with more that fit your own transforming and becoming. But here we go. I am safe discovering new aspects of myself. I am safe exploring transformation and loss and change. Change can bring about empowerment and clarity. I welcome new insights. My authentic self shines bright and will always lead me through the darkness. I am safe. I am held. I am curious. I am knowing. I am. Right? And that's what I think I will leave with here, is when I said I am knowing. I could have said I am hopeful, I'm feeling hope, and there's been a few thinkers that have broached the topic of hope and hopefulness. And it's a complex conversation. We're not going to get into the whole the whole depth of that today, probably, but you know, hope when we're really in despair and we're really in a dark place is a great tool. But what's even more empowering than hope is knowing, right? It's when we say, well, I hope it'll work out, maybe it'll work out. It's very different than when we say, I know I am going to be okay, right? I know I'm going to take the right steps that is going to be loving toward myself, therefore loving toward others, loving toward the community. I know that I am safe and held. I know that even in this darkness and even in some of this challenging friction energy, that I am learning and growing, right? It's a very different thing than saying, I hope that I am. And I think that sense of knowing, that's the voice I'm trying to engage with here in bringing about the exploration of Pluto and Mars in a conversation, which is just, you can't get much more intense than that. The other thing I want to just mention before I close out our conversation today is that, you know, Pluto has just gone direct a few days ago, and Pluto was retrograde for about 6 months, and he's always does a 6-month retrograde every year. And when we come out of it, we're starting to move forward. And like I said, this square is a breakthrough. It's breaking forward. It's breaking into something. And so there is a sense that this is not a square to hold you. This is not a square to hold you back. This is not a square to keep living for months ahead. It's a very specific little window of time during this Mars retrograde that's about breakthrough. And when we tap into our inner mothering and our inner knowing, that breakthrough comes in a softer guise, and in a welcoming guise. It'll help you home in on the thing you need to be homing in on, and not all the other haunted house noises that may be wanting to infiltrate your thoughts and get you worked up. So that's what we're wanting to do here during this time. You don't want to listen to all the haunted house noise. You want to home in on that piece of the puzzle that's clicking in. I think I needed this talk just as much as maybe some of you did. I'm so grateful. All the beautiful comments you sent me about what I shared with you earlier this week on the post. So grateful for you guys. You really boosted my spirits. This week has been really hard. The grieving has been very real for me. I think a lot more intense than I thought it would be, because I'm quite good at being on my own. I love to create, and connect with friends and do my own thing. I'm very much my own person, and I thought, I have this skill set. I've learned this skill set throughout my life, so I'll just be able to tap into it in this time of transition really easily. But it has been definitely much deeper and harder than I expected this initial week, just kind of adjusting. And your comments and your lovely wishes and your blessings and your prayers, I really felt all of that. It helped bolster me a lot, and remember that inner mothering voice that says this is going to be okay. So thank you so much, you guys. I'm going to get emotional, but yeah, I think I'm tapping into that because I do feel like this is a time for big breakthrough for all of us. And I'm so curious to see how you feel through the next couple of days as we ease into this. Next week, we are going to be discussing Mercury retrograde and how to work with that. And we're going to be I'm going to be offering up some worksheets and some practices for this next phase of the year as we tap into Mercury retrograde. So I'm really looking forward to sharing that with you. Have a safe and beautiful weekend. I will talk to you next week, and I love you all so much. Thank you for being here. It means the world to me.